This is Everett's, Kentucky in 1946, Harlan County, a dry county. No legal liquor sold anywhere in it. On the 18th of February 1965, 9 state troopers came up a road on the other side of the county to a frame house with green awnings looking for whiskey. They found it. 14 half pints, a pint of vodka, 6 pints of gin, 116 bottles of beer. Routine. They had done this 36 times before. Then they opened a closet in a small bedroom and found an Army footlocker. The United States Tax Court later described what was inside in a single sentence: a footlocker containing $206,909 in cash. It belonged to a 60-year-old woman who had never owned a car, never had a bank account, and wore tennis shoes she replaced twice a year. Her name was Maggie Bailey. By one lawyer's count, she was taken into court something like 100 times. This is the record of what happened when they got her there. The court wrote down the basics. Born the 12th of August, 1904 in Letcher County, Kentucky. She left home at 16, having gone through the 7th or 8th grade, and traveled to the town of Harlan, where she worked as a waitress. Then one line that covers the next 84 years of her life. In 1921, she began her liquor business, starting with moonshine whiskey. She was 17. Prohibition had a decade left to run, and the county was filling up with men who worked underground. Coal. This is the tipple at the Clover Gap mine where the loaded cars came out of the mountain and the coal was weighed. The man who checked that weight decided what a miner had earned. Every car was somebody's wages. These photographs were made by Russell Lee in 1946 for a federal medical survey of the coal industry. He went into the same camps Maggie Bailey sold into. The color is not original. Lee worked in black and white. These frames were colorized by a machine learning model, and every color you see is that model's estimate, not the record. The black and white originals are free to anyone at the National Archives. A miner at Clover Gap coming off shift. Furman Currington and his son, both of them miners. These were her customers, men paid in cash, in a county where the law said they could not buy a drink. By 1940, the federal government had noticed her. The Harlan Daily Enterprise, November 3, 1940. 9 people arrested on liquor law violations, arraigned before the United States Commissioner at Pineville. Her name is in the warrant list. January 1941, 3 Harlan people held under $1,000 bond each in federal court, including one woman. They were arrested at night in the Clovertown section. Her obituary, 64 years later, gives the charge as the indictment stated it. She had 150 half-gallons of moonshine on hand at the time she was charged. The tax costs version is 4 lines. 2 two-year terms at the Federal Women's Reformatory at Alderson, West Virginia, running concurrently. She began serving in May 1941 and came home in May 1943. It is the only conviction anyone has been able to find against her. The court records the restart the way it records everything else, with a date. On approximately the 1st of July, 1945, she resumed her liquor business in Harlan, which she conducted in the home of her sister. So this is the county in her first full year back in business. A coal loader named Blaine Sargent at the end of a shift. His pay slip. Russell Lee photographed that too. The Sargent family's house and the view from their porch. Bobby Jean Sargent playing in the front yard. Lee Sargent, 7 years old, 2nd grade, and Saturday afternoon in the town of Harlan. Mr. and Mrs. Sargent shopping for children's socks. Her place stood 10 feet off Kentucky 38 in the Clovertown section. White siding, green awnings, 2 children's swing sets in the yard. Law enforcement called on it often. By 1972, the Courier-Journal counted 37 such visits going back to 1953, each ending in a charge of possessing illegal alcoholic beverages. Her lawyer explained why so few of them stuck. She was very adroit. She had 1,000,000 different places to hide it. She had a labyrinth of buildings all around her dwelling. Search warrants were thrown out because they weren't written to include certain buildings. That happened, he said, about every time there was a case. She did not drink. She would not sell to children, and she would not sell to anyone she judged had a problem with it. Her attorney said she ran a decent place, no jukebox, and she spent the money on the county. She bought coal to heat poor families' houses in winter, carried people on groceries, and put several children through college. A relative by marriage put it plainly decades later. Everybody knew her, and she had helped everybody. Why do you bite the hand that feeds you? Anybody who wanted to get elected went to see Maggie Bailey. She was very influential, the same woman said. She had power, which is the part the prosecutors could never get around. One of her defense lawyers was Carl Forrester, who later became a United States District Judge. He called her an expert on the Fourth Amendment. She knew the laws of search and seizure, he said, as well as any person I've known. He also remembered defending her at 6 separate trials on the same day. We had 6 acquittals at 3 different courts in the same day. Another Harlan lawyer, Eugene Goss, represented her many times. I don't care what the evidence was, he said. The juries would not convict her. I know that she must have been hauled into court at least 100 times. I do not remember a single time that she was convicted. Local juries would not do it. So in 1965, the government stopped asking them too. The state police told the Internal Revenue Service about the footlocker. Within a week, tax liens totaling $1,374,000 were filed in Harlan County against her, her husband, and her sister. She had filed no federal income tax return at all for the years 1942 through 1954, so the commissioner reconstructed 22 years of her income from the size of her cash pile. The demand came to $170,391.94. More than $50,000 of that was a fraud penalty. She fought it, and the trial produced the strangest financial portrait in the record. Petitioner has always lived frugally, the court found. She paid no rent and spent very little for her clothing. She regularly wore tennis shoes, purchasing about 2 pairs a year, and discarded employees' uniforms of the National Distillers Company in Louisville, which were given to her. She bought cheap denim house dresses costing a few dollars. She had never owned an automobile. She and her sister raised vegetables and hogs behind the house. The largest bootlegger in Harlan County was living on about $900 a year. Asked why she kept $200,000 in a footlocker instead of a bank, she gave the answer of someone who was 26 years old in 1930. I lost my money when the banks closed. Asked why she had never filed, she said, well, I just didn't know I had to make a tax return. The court's answer came in March 1970. On the money, the government mostly won. The judge rebuilt her income at just over $9,000 a year and let the back taxes stand. But on fraud, the $50,000 in penalties, the accusation that she had deliberately cheated the government, it lost every single year. The record, the court wrote, is devoid of any affirmative indication that petitioner deliberately cheated the government. While we do not doubt that petitioner possessed a shrewd intelligence, the judge went on, she did not conduct her business with such sophistication that the absence of records can be regarded as evidence of a deliberate concealment of income. And then a line that reads like it was written by a neighbor. It appears petitioner distrusted banks. The Sixth Circuit affirmed in April 1971 in 4 sentences. The $1 million lien came down to a bill for roughly $18,000 in back taxes and late filing penalties. She paid it, and she went back to work. The 1st of December 1998, an undercover trooper bought alcohol at Maggie Bailey's home in Harlan. She was 94 years old. Troopers hauled out 658 cans of beer, 24 bottles of liquor, 4 coolers, and $107 in cash, and photographed themselves counting it. She was still selling from that house at 95. Maggie Bailey died on the 3rd of December 2005 at the hospital in Harlan of complications from pneumonia. She was 101. The Herald-Leader ran her on the front page, below the photograph of Saddam Hussein's trial. Her family told one story that day that says everything about how Kentucky handled her. A governor came through Harlan campaigning and told her, "Mag, if you can help me get elected, I'm going to buy you some shoes." When he got elected, he sent his lieutenant governor in with the shoes. Late in life, watching what came after her, she told her lawyer what she made of the modern trade. "I'm glad I'm just a good old-fashioned bootlegger." What the record settles is narrow. She sold whiskey for 84 years in a county that forbade it. The federal government convicted her exactly once. And when it finally came after her with arithmetic instead of a jury, it proved the money and failed to prove the fraud. What it does not settle is the harder question. The county that would not convict her was saying something about itself, about wages, about dry laws, about who actually kept people fed in Harlan County. Nobody ever put that question to a witness. If your people were in the Harlan coal camps, you may have heard her name at a kitchen table. The comments are open, and the people who remember Mag's place are still the best source there is.